What happens when the weakest wolf in the pack becomes the only one who can save them all? For Alara Ashwood, life had always been measured in whispered apologies and downcast eyes. She was Omega, the lowest rank in the Silvercrest pack, bound to serve, meant to submit. Her wolf had never spoken to her, never stirred beneath her skin the way it should have. While others shifted with grace and power, she remained trapped in fragile human form, her scent a delicate mix of lavender and morning dew that marked her as prey among predators. But when Alpha Demon Blackthorn rejected her as his fated mate in front of the entire pack under the full moon's witness, severing their bond with a declaration that echoed through the ceremonial grounds, everything changed. The pain should have killed her. The humiliation should have broken her. And what happens next, no one was prepared for. Not the pack that cast her out, not the parents who turned their backs, and certainly not the ancient warriors who had been searching centuries for her arrival. The mating ceremony had been planned for months. Alara had felt the pull toward Demon since her 18th birthday 3 weeks ago. That inexplicable magnetic draw that whispered of destiny and forever. The mate bond was sacred among their kind, a gift from the moon goddess herself, marked by glowing symbols that would appear on both partners' skin when the bond was accepted. She dared to hope, even as an Omega, that perhaps the goddess had smiled upon her. She'd been a fool. The ceremonial grounds sprawled beneath ancient oaks, their branches draped with silver ribbons that caught the moonlight. Every member of the Silvercrest pack had gathered, over 300 wolves in their finest clothing, their excitement crackling through the air like static. Alphas stood tall with their chests puffed, betas mingled in comfortable clusters, and the handful of Omegas like Alara kept to the edges, their postures submissive, their eyes lowered. Alara wore a simple white dress, the only formal clothing she owned. Her long auburn hair had been braided with wildflowers by her younger sister that morning, before her parents had forbidden the girl from attending. "Don't get your hopes up," her mother had warned, her face tight with something that looked almost like fear. "Things are complicated." But Alara had felt the bond. She knew Demon felt it too. She'd seen the way his dark eyes tracked her across the pack grounds, the way his jaw clenched when other males came near her. He was magnificent, tall and powerfully built, with black hair and eyes like storm clouds. His scent of forest and embers and ozone made her wolf stir in ways she'd never experienced. He was everything an alpha should be, strong, commanding, destined to lead. And he was hers, or so she'd thought. The ceremony began as the moon reached its zenith. Elder Moira, ancient and silver-haired, stepped onto the raised platform at the center of the grounds, her voice carried with supernatural clarity. "Under the moon goddess's light, we gather to witness the sacred bonds that tie our pack together. Tonight, Alpha Demon Blackthorn will claim his mate and future Luna." A wave of power washed over the assembled wolves as Demon climbed the platform. He wore ceremonial black, silver embroidery catching the moonlight. His presence was overwhelming, his alpha aura pushing against every wolf present, demanding submission and respect. Alara's heart hammered as she felt the invisible thread between them pull taut. This was it. Her moment. Her destiny. "Come forward," Elder Moira commanded, but it wasn't Alara who stepped onto the platform. Seraphine Frost glided forward, her movements liquid grace, her blonde hair cascading down her back like spun gold. She was beta-born, powerful and beautiful, with a scent of cinnamon and iron that spoke of danger and ambition. Her smile was triumphant as she took her place beside Demon. Alara's world tilted. "No," she whispered, too quiet for anyone to hear. The bond pulled at her chest, demanding she move forward, claiming what was hers. But her feet remained rooted to the ground, confusion and dread flooding her system. Demon's eyes found hers across the crowd. For just a moment, something flickered in his expression. Regret, perhaps, or resignation. Then his face hardened into an alpha's mask of authority. "Before we proceed," he said, his voice carrying across the silent grounds, "there is a matter that must be addressed." His gaze never left Alara's. The moon goddess, in her infinite wisdom, sometimes tests us with bonds that cannot be. I, Demon Blackthorn, Alpha of Silvercrest, formally reject the mate bond with Alara Ashwood. Time stopped. The words hung in the air like poison. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Alara felt the bond between them, that beautiful, terrifying thread of destiny, begin to fray. "No," she managed, louder this time. "You can't. An alpha must choose strength," Demon continued, his voice cold and clinical, as if she were nothing more than a problem to be solved. "An Omega Luna would weaken our pack, leave us vulnerable to our enemies. I choose a mate worthy of standing beside me. I choose power over weakness." The bond snapped. Alara screamed. It felt like her chest was being ripped open, her soul torn in two. Fire raced through her veins, burning every nerve ending. She collapsed to her knees, hands clutching at her heart as if she could physically hold herself together. The scent of her anguish, lavender turning bitter, like flowers left too long in the sun, filled the air. Around her, wolves backed away, their faces a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't them. No one moved to help her. No one dared defy their alpha's decree. "Remove her," Demon ordered, and his voice held no emotion at all. "An Omega who cannot accept rejection has no place in Silvercrest." Strong hands gripped Alara's arms, pack guards hauling her to her feet. She could barely stand, barely breathe through the agony. Through tear-blurred vision, she saw Demon take Seraphine's hand, saw the mate mark begin to glow on both their wrists, not the true bond, but a chosen one, sanctioned by pack law, if not by destiny. "Please," Alara gasped, looking desperately toward the crowd. "Mother. Father." She found them at last, standing near the back. Her mother's face was pale, her father's jaw clenched tight. But when Alara's pleading eyes met theirs, they looked away. Her father placed a hand on her mother's shoulder and guided her in the opposite direction. Melting into the crowd as if their daughter didn't exist, the guards dragged Alara toward the pack's border. She struggled weakly, but the pain of the severed bond sapped all her strength. Other wolves watched in silence as she was hauled past, their judgment clear in their eyes. Weak, pathetic, unworthy. "Please," she tried again, but her voice was barely a whisper now. They threw her past the border markers, across the invisible line that separated pack territory from the wilderness beyond. Alara hit the frozen ground hard, her white dress torn and stained. The guards stood at the border, their postures rigid. "Pack law is clear," one of them said, his voice almost gentle, almost pitying. "A rejected mate who brings shame to the alpha must be exiled. The frost moon is coming, storm season. You have until dawn to leave our lands, or we'll hunt you as a rogue." Then they turned and left, their footsteps crunching through frost-brittle leaves, leaving her alone in the dark. Alara lay there as the cold seeped into her bones, as the pain in her chest slowly dulled to a hollow ache. Above her, the moon, the same moon that had witnessed her humiliation, shone with indifferent beauty. She'd been taught since childhood to revere the moon goddess, to trust in her plans. But what kind of goddess would give her a mate only to let him destroy her? She didn't know how long she lay there, minutes, hours. Time had lost all meaning. Eventually, the cold became impossible to ignore. She forced herself to move, to stand on shaking legs. The forest stretched endlessly before her, dark and threatening. She had no supplies, no warm clothing, no idea where to go. The nearest human town was 50 miles south, across mountain passes she'd never survive alone. But staying here meant death by her own pack's teeth. She walked. The temperature dropped as she stumbled deeper into the wild. Her breath misted in the air, each exhale a little cloud of frost. The simple dress offered no protection against the elements. Within an hour, she couldn't feel her fingers or toes. Her lips turned blue. Her skin took on a grayish pallor. The storm hit without warning. One moment the sky was clear. The next, it erupted with howling wind and stinging sleet. Alara wrapped her arms around herself, but it was useless. The storm was supernatural in its fury, as if nature itself had turned against her. She could barely see 3 feet ahead through the driving ice and snow. This is it, she thought with strange clarity. This is how I die. She'd read about exposure in the pack's small library, knew the stages. First the shivering, violent tremors that racked her body. Then the confusion, the overwhelming desire to sleep. Then the sleep itself, so peaceful, so inviting. Then nothing. She didn't see the structure until she nearly walked into it. An old barn, half collapsed, abandoned by some long-gone homesteader. The door hung crooked on rusted hinges, but it was shelter. Barely. She dragged herself inside and collapsed in the corner on ancient, moldy hay. The shivering stopped. That was bad. She knew that was bad. It meant her body was shutting down, conserving what little warmth remained for her vital organs. She curled into herself, making her body as small as possible, and closed her eyes. I'm sorry, she thought, though she didn't know who she was apologizing to. The moon goddess? Her wolf, who had never spoken to her? Herself, for being too weak to survive? Her last conscious thought was wondering if anyone would even notice she was gone. She didn't know what woke her. A sound, perhaps, or a presence. Something that penetrated the fog of dying. Alara's eyes fluttered open, or tried to. Her lashes were frozen together with ice crystals. With enormous effort, she pried them apart and saw the eyes, golden, enormous, watching her from just a few feet away. A wolf. No, her sluggish mind corrected. Too big for a normal wolf. Her vision swam, unfocused. She tried to count. 1 massive shape in front of her, 2 more behind, 3 flanking her left side, 4, 5, 6. They surrounded her. 10 in total. Each one impossibly large, bigger than any pack wolf she'd ever seen. Their fur was darker than midnight, seeming to absorb the dim light rather than reflect it. But their eyes glowed with an inner fire, gold and amber and copper. She should have been terrified. She was going to die anyway, better by tooth than by cold. But she felt no fear, only a strange sense of rightness, as if she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. The largest one, the alpha of this mysterious pack, moved closer. His massive head lowered until his muzzle was inches from her face. His breath was warm against her frozen skin. He sniffed carefully, his nostrils flaring as he took in her scent. Lavender and wildflowers, and something else. Something deeper, like ancient magic stirring after a long sleep. The giant wolf made a low sound. Something between a whine and a rumble. Then, to her shock, he lay down beside her, his massive body curved around her small, freezing form. The others moved in, creating a living wall of fur and muscle and warmth. They pressed against her, sharing their heat, their presence, their protection. The last thing Alara heard before consciousness fled entirely was a voice, deep and resonant and utterly impossible, because wolves didn't speak. "We've been waiting for you, matriarch. Sleep now. You're safe." She woke to warmth, not the painful burning of returning circulation, but a gentle, pervasive heat that seemed to come from within as much as without. Ilara's eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the dim light filtering through the barn's broken roof. Dawn had come, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. She was alive. The massive wolves still surrounded her, though now she could see them clearly. They weren't normal wolves, that much was obvious. Each one was the size of a small horse, with fur that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly quality. They were all awake, all watching her with those intelligent, glowing eyes. Ilara sat up slowly, half expecting them to attack now that she'd moved, but they remained still, patient, as if waiting for permission. "You saved me," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, her throat raw from screaming and cold. "Why?" The largest wolf, the alpha, rose to his feet. The air around him shimmered, and Ilara watched in awe as his form began to change. It wasn't like the pack shift she'd witnessed, all snapping bones and tearing flesh. This was fluid, graceful, like watching water transform into ice. Within moments, a man stood before her. He was tall and powerfully built, with silver-shot black hair and those same golden eyes. His face was scarred, a thick line running from his left temple to his jaw, and his bare chest bore the marks of countless battles. But there was something in his bearing, in the way he held himself, that spoke of ancient authority and unshakable confidence. His scent washed over her, aged oak, winter snow, pine, and the electric charge of an approaching storm. "My name is Cale Stormborn," he said, his voice the same impossible one from the night before. "Commander of the Unchained." He gestured to the other wolves, who had also begun to shift, becoming men and women of similar bearing. "We've been searching for you for a very long time, Lady Ilara." "How do you know my name?" She pressed herself back against the barn wall, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she was. Kyle smiled, and it transformed his harsh features into something almost gentle. "We know many things. We know you are Omega-born. We know you were rejected last night by a fool who mistook true power for weakness. We know your parents bound your wolf when you were an infant, sealing away what you are." His golden eyes seemed to see straight through her. "And we know that rejection, as painful as it was, shattered the binding. Your wolf is waking, Ilara Ashwood. Can't you feel her?" Ilara opened her mouth to deny it, but stopped, because there was something, a stirring deep in her chest, in that hollow place where the mate bond had been ripped away. Not pain, but presence, awareness, a consciousness that wasn't quite her own, yet was completely hers. "Hello," something whispered in her mind. And the voice was female and fierce and familiar as her own heartbeat. "I've missed you, little one," Ilara gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "What? Who? Your wolf," Kyle confirmed. "She's been locked away since you were 6 months old. Your parents feared what you would become, so they hired a dark witch to bind your power. It was meant to be permanent." His expression darkened. "But mate bonds are sacred magic, older and stronger than any witch's spell. When Demon Blackthorn rejected you, the backlash of power shattered the binding. You're free now, Ilara. For the first time in your life, you're truly free." The other warriors had finished shifting, forming a loose circle around her. Ilara counted them carefully. 10 total, as she'd thought. Each one bore the marks of long years and hard battles. each one radiated power that made her former alpha look like a child playing pretend. "Who are you?" she asked. "What are you?" "The Unchained," Kyle repeated. "We were once the moon goddess's personal guard, blessed with strength beyond mortal wolves, cursed to walk the earth until we found the one we were meant to protect." He knelt before her, and the others followed suit. 10 ancient warriors bowing to a rejected Omega in a ruined barn. "We are yours, matriarch. We have always been yours." "I don't understand." Ilara shook her head, overwhelmed. "I'm nobody. I'm Omega. The weakest—" "You are not Omega," a female warrior interrupted, her voice sharp but not unkind. She had copper-colored hair and amber eyes, her muscular frame covered in intricate scars that looked almost like deliberate patterns. "You were never Omega, girl. That was the binding, suppressing your true nature, making you small and weak and easy to control." "Then what am I?" Ilara's voice broke on the question. Kale's expression turned reverent. "You're the answer to a prophecy older than any living pack. Let me tell you a story, Lady Ilara. Let me tell you the truth your parents feared too much to speak aloud." He settled onto the barn floor, the others following suit, creating an intimate circle. Outside, the storm had finally broken, and weak winter sunlight streamed through gaps in the walls. 500 years ago, Kyle began, the packs were at war. Not the petty territorial disputes you know today, but true war, blood and fire and extinction. The moon goddess watched her children tear each other apart, and she wept. In her grief, she made a promise. "When the blood moon rises twice in one season, when winter refuses to release spring's hand, when the weakest wolf is cast out to die, then shall the matriarch rise. She will be born of low station, her power bound by fear, her strength hidden even from herself. She will come when hope is dying and lead when all seems lost. She will be the first wolf's daughter, the peacemaker, the queen of queens. And she will unite the packs, or see them fall to ancient darkness." His golden eyes met hers. "There have been blood moons twice this season, Ilara. Winter has lasted 3 months longer than it should. And last night, the weakest wolf of Silvercrest was cast out to die." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and placed his scarred hand over her heart. "Can you feel it? The prophecy awakening in your blood?" Ilara could. Beneath her skin, beneath the surface of her consciousness, something vast and powerful stirred. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Her wolf, her real wolf, not the tiny silent creature she'd always believed herself to have, was rising like the sun after an endless night. "My parents," she whispered. "They knew?" "They knew," a male warrior confirmed. His voice was gentle despite his fierce appearance, shaggy blonde hair and tribal tattoos covering his arms. "Your mother had a vision when you were born. She saw what you would become, and it frightened her. A mother who wanted nothing more than a normal life for her child. A father who feared the prophecy would paint a target on your back. So they bound me." Anger flickered in her chest, hot and sharp. "Made me weak. Made me nothing." "They made you safe," Kale corrected. "Or so they thought. But prophecies cannot be denied, only delayed. The moon goddess has her plans, and we are all merely players in her grand design." The female warrior with copper hair leaned forward. "My name is Thora," she said. "These are my brothers and sisters, Magnus, Finn, Roran, Astrid, Kira, Brennan, Lyric, and Soren." Each nodded as they were named. "We've waited centuries for you, matriarch. We've watched generations pass, felt the pull growing stronger with each passing year. And last night, when your binding shattered, we felt it, like a bell ringing across the entire world. But I can't even shift, Ilara protested weakly. You've never been allowed to, Kyle interrupted. But the binding is broken now. Your wolf is free. He stood, offering her his hand. If you're willing, we can help her emerge. But I warn you, it will be intense. Everything you are is about to change. Ilara stared at his outstretched hand. Part of her wanted to refuse, to curl back up in the corner and pretend this was all a fever dream, born of dying. But another part, the part that had always felt too small for her skin, too quiet for her soul, whispered that this was the moment. This was her chance. She took his hand. Kyle pulled her to her feet with effortless strength. The other warriors rose as well, forming a protective circle around them. The barn suddenly felt too small, too confined. Outside, Kyle said. She'll need space. They emerged into a small clearing. The storm had left everything crystalline with ice, each tree branch coated in glittering armor. The sun hung low on the horizon, making the world glow. It was beautiful. It was perfect. Close your eyes, Kyle instructed, his hand still holding hers. Feel for your wolf. Not with your mind, but with your soul. She's there, Ilara. She's waiting. Ilara closed her eyes and reached inward. At first, there was nothing, just the familiar emptiness she'd always known. But then she felt it. A presence, vast and ancient, and utterly hers. There you are, the voice purred. My precious girl, are you ready to fly? Yes, Ilara whispered aloud. Yes, I'm ready. The transformation began. It wasn't painful. It should have been. She'd heard the stories of first shifts, the agony of bones breaking and reforming. But this felt like coming home. Like slipping into warm water after a lifetime in the cold. Her bones didn't snap. They flowed. She felt her skeleton restructure, lengthening and strengthening. Her skin prickled as fur erupted, not harsh or painful, but like 1,000 tiny kisses. The world shifted as she fell forward onto all fours, but it felt natural, right? Her senses exploded, scents flooding in with overwhelming clarity, sounds sharpening to crystal precision. But it was the power that took her breath away. Energy surged through her like lightning, like wildfire, like a tidal wave that had been held back for too long. It erupted from her core, washing over the clearing in waves of pure force. The ice on the trees shattered, falling like diamond rain. The ground beneath her paws trembled. She grew, and grew, and grew, when it finally stopped. When she finally stood on 4 legs and opened eyes that she knew without seeing had turned from plain brown to silver white. She realized she was massive. Larger than Kale's wolf form, larger than any alpha she'd ever seen. She was easily the size of a draft horse, her fur gleaming like moonlight given physical form, her claws like silver daggers. Hello, beautiful, her wolf said, and Ilara realized they were one now. Not 2 separate beings, but a unified whole. Ready to show them what we really are? Ilara tilted her head back and howled. The sound shook the forest. Birds erupted from trees for miles around. Small animals fled in terror. And somewhere far away, in Silver Crest territory, 300 wolves felt their bones rattle with the force of it. It wasn't just a howl. It was a declaration. A reclamation, a rebirth. When the echoes finally faded, Ilara looked at the Unchained. They'd all shifted back to human form, their expressions awed. Kyle dropped to one knee, his fist over his heart. The others followed instantly. Matriarch, he said, his voice thick with emotion. She is risen. The prophecy is fulfilled. Ilara shifted back, and found it was easy, natural, like slipping from one form to the other, required no more effort than breathing. She stood before them, naked but unashamed, power thrumming through every cell. Her scent had changed, still lavender and wildflowers, but now with an undercurrent of ozone and starlight, something that spoke of divinity and destiny. "I am Alara Ashwood," she said, and her voice carried an authority she'd never possessed before. "And I am going to change everything." The days that followed blurred together in a haze of training and discovery. The Unchained had a den, not the ruined barn, but a hidden cave system deep in the mountains, protected by ancient wards and centuries of secrecy. It was vast and comfortable, with natural hot springs and chambers that had been carved and furnished over the centuries. Kyle became her primary teacher, showing her how to control the shift, how to tap into her abilities without being overwhelmed. But she learned from all of them, each one offering something unique. Thora taught her combat, both in human and wolf form. "You have raw power," the warrior woman said as she circled Alara in the training chamber. "But power without skill is just noise. Learn to be precise. Learn to be deadly." Magnus, the massive blonde warrior, taught her about strength and endurance. "Your wolf form can run for days without tiring," he explained during a mountain run. "Can leap over chasms that would kill a normal wolf. But you must trust your body. Trust your instincts." Finn and Roran, twin brothers with midnight black hair and matching scars, taught her about strategy and pack dynamics. "You'll be leading wolves one day," Finn said. "Understanding how they think, what motivates them, what scares them. That's half the battle." Astrid, quiet and ethereal with snow-white hair, taught her about the spiritual aspects. "You're connected to the moon goddess now in ways others aren't. You can sense emotions, feel pack bonds, even heal injuries with your presence. But it takes practice to control it." Kira and Brennan, inseparable partners, taught her about loyalty and trust. "The Unchained are yours," Kira said simply. "We'll die for you without hesitation. But you need to understand what that means. The weight of having lives depend on your choices." Lyric, the youngest of the group with russet hair and mischievous eyes, taught her to find joy in her power. "Being the matriarch doesn't mean you have to be serious all the time," she laughed as they raced through the forest. "Let yourself be wild. Let yourself be free." And Soren, oldest and most scarred, taught her about sacrifice and duty. "Power comes with a price," he said quietly one evening by the fire. "You'll have to make choices that hurt. Lead people who'll hate you for it. But that's what it means to be a leader." Through it all, Kyle was there, not just as a teacher, but as something more. She felt it growing between them, not the forced, mystical pull of a mate bond, but something perhaps more powerful. Choice. Trust. Partnership. One night, 3 weeks after her transformation, they sat together on the cave's terrace, looking out over the moonlit mountains. "Tell me about the bond," Alara said quietly. "The one I had with Diamond. It felt like everything. How do I move past it?" Kyle was silent for a long moment. "Fated bonds are strong," he admitted. "But they're not the only kind of bond that matters. Some of the greatest pairs in history chose each other, fought for each other, built something that had nothing to do with destiny and everything to do with will." He turned to face her, his golden eyes reflecting the moonlight. "I won't lie to you, Alara. You'll always feel the echo of that broken bond. But it doesn't define you, it doesn't limit you, and it certainly doesn't determine who you'll love." She met his gaze. "And if I wanted to choose? If I wanted to build something new?" "Then we build," he said simply. together. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around her. It felt right, natural, like coming home to a place she'd never been. Below them, the other warriors had gathered around the fire pit, their laughter and stories drifting up on the night air. They were family now, not by blood, but by something stronger, by prophecy and choice and unbreakable loyalty. Alara was no longer the weak Omega of Silvercrest. She was the matriarch, the prophesied queen, powerful beyond measure. But more importantly, she was free. The scout found them on the first day of spring. Alara was training with Thora in the meadow, a complex series of combat moves that required perfect balance between human cunning and wolf instinct, when she caught an unfamiliar scent on the wind. Forest and embers and ozone. Demon. Her wolf rose instantly, hackles raised, a growl building in her chest. The Unchained sensed her distress immediately, appearing from various positions around the den with supernatural speed. Matriarch! Kyle was at her side, his hand on his weapon. Someone's watching us, Alara said quietly. From the ridge, Magnus's nostrils flared. Silvercrest, he confirmed grimly. A scout. So they know I'm alive. Alara felt strangely calm. She'd known this moment would come eventually. How long until they mobilize? If he's fast, Soren calculated. They could be here by nightfall. Good, Alara said, surprising them all. Let them come. Kyle studied her face. You're ready for this? She thought about the girl who'd been rejected and cast out to die. The weak, voiceless Omega, who'd believed herself worthless. That girl was gone. Burned away in the fire of transformation and reborn as something new. I'm ready, she confirmed. They came as the sun set, painting the sky blood red. Alara stood in the meadow with the Unchained at her back, waiting. She'd dressed simply, leather pants and a fitted tunic, practical clothes for both human and wolf forms. Her hair hung loose, stirring in the evening breeze. She looked nothing like the broken girl they'd exiled. She stood tall and confident, power radiating from her like heat from a forge. The Silvercrest wolves emerged from the tree line in formation. 25 warriors, all in human form, armed and armored. At their center walked Demon Blackthorn, his alpha aura pushing against the air itself. Beside him, predictably, was Seraphine, her beautiful face twisted with contempt. They stopped 50 feet away, and for a long moment, nobody moved. Then Demon's eyes widened. Alara. He barely recognized her. How could he? The woman standing before him bore little resemblance to the trembling Omega he'd rejected. This woman looked like a queen, regal and fierce and utterly untouchable. Hello, Damon, she said, her voice carrying easily across the distance. I'd say it's good to see you, but we both know that would be a lie. His jaw clenched. You should be dead. Sorry to disappoint. Seraphine stepped forward, her scent sharp with aggression. You dare show your face after the shame you brought to our pack? You dare stand before your alpha with such disrespect? Alara's smile was cold. He's not my alpha. He gave up that right when he rejected me and cast me out to die. She tilted her head. And you, Seraphine? How does it feel? Wearing someone else's mate mark? Does it burn? Does it ache like a lie etched into your skin? The blonde woman's face flushed with rage. I am Luna of Silvercrest. You are nothing but a failed Omega who couldn't accept her place. Then prove it, Alara said softly. Fight me. Show me how an Omega compares to a Luna. Alara, don't, Demon warned. But there was something in his voice. Uncertainty. Maybe even fear. Too late. Seraphine was already shifting, her form melting into that of a large, golden-furred wolf. She was beautiful and deadly, her beta bloodline giving her speed and power most could only dream of. She launched herself at Ilara with killing intent. Ilara didn't even shift. She simply raised one hand, and power exploded outward like a shockwave. Seraphine was caught mid-leap and slammed back into the ground with devastating force. The impact left a crater. The golden wolf tried to rise, whimpering, but couldn't move, pinned by invisible force, by sheer overwhelming dominance. "Let me be very clear," Ilara said, walking slowly toward the helpless wolf. "I am not the Omega you remember. I am not weak. I am not nothing." She crouched beside Seraphine, who was now trembling with primal terror. "I am the matriarch. I am the first wolf's daughter. And you are beneath my notice." She released the power, and Seraphine scrambled backward, shifting to human and cowering behind demon. The Silvercrest warriors were backing up too, their faces pale with shock. They'd never witnessed power like this. Raw, absolute, undeniable. But it wasn't over. Kyle and the Unchained began to shift, and as they did, their true forms were revealed. Not mere large wolves, but something from legend. Dire wolves, each one massive and otherworldly, their fur seeming to absorb light, their eyes glowing with ancient fire. They were triple the size of the largest alpha wolf, prehistoric predators that hadn't walked the earth in millennia. The Unchained formed a wall behind Ilara, 10 mythic guardians radiating menace and power. "Stand down," Demon ordered his warriors, his voice tight. But even he looked shaken, his alpha confidence crumbling in the face of something far greater than himself. "You came to my territory," Ilara said, her voice carrying to every wolf present. "You tracked me down, brought an army to destroy what you thought was a weak, broken girl. But she's gone, Demon. That girl died the night you rejected her." She let her own power flare, her eyes flashing silver white. "And in her place stands something your pack isn't ready for." Demon dropped to his knees. It wasn't a voluntary act. His body simply couldn't support him under the weight of her dominance. One by one, the other Silvercrest wolves followed, collapsing to their knees, their heads bowed in involuntary submission. "Mercy," Demon gasped. "Matriarch, please." Ilara looked at him, really looked at him, the male who'd rejected her, who'd chosen power over destiny, who'd left her to die. She should have felt satisfaction, should have felt vindication. Instead, she felt nothing. No anger, no hurt. He was just a wolf who'd made a choice, and she'd been freed because of it. "You want mercy?" she asked quietly. "Then hear my judgment." She circled the kneeling wolves slowly, her voice carrying to all. "The Silvercrest pack has forgotten what it means to honor the moon goddess's gifts. You've let status and power corrupt what should be sacred. You've treated Omegas as lesser, as disposable, as tools rather than people." Her eyes swept over them. "That ends now. From this moment forward, these are my laws for any pack that wishes safe passage through my territory. First, no wolf shall be judged by their birth rank alone. Omega, Beta, or Alpha. All are children of the moon goddess and deserve respect. Second, mate bonds, whether fated or chosen, are sacred. Any alpha who rejects a fated mate without just cause will answer to me. Third, violence against the helpless, against pups, against those who cannot defend themselves. This will not be tolerated. Ever." She stopped in front of Demon. "As for you, you're a coward and a fool, but you're not a monster. You can learn. You can change." She held out her hand, and after a moment, he took it, letting her pull him to his feet. "Go back to Silvercrest. Tell them what you saw here. Tell them the matriarch has risen, and the old ways are ending. She turned to Seraphine next, who was still trembling. And you. You wanted power so badly you'd take another's mate. You're stripped of your Luna title. Leave Silvercrest. Find your own path, one that doesn't involve stealing what isn't yours. You can't, Seraphine started, but one look from Alara silenced her. I can, the matriarch said simply, and I have. She stepped back, releasing the dominance that held them. The Silvercrest wolves rose shakily, their expressions awed and terrified. This territory is mine now, Alara declared. These mountains, these forests, they're under my protection. Any pack that wishes to trade or travel through may do so peacefully. But if you come with violence, if you come with hate, the Unchained growled as one, a sound that shook the very air. You'll meet the same fate as your pathetic invasion party. Demon nodded shakily. We understand, matriarch. Good. She turned her back on them, the ultimate display of dominance, showing she didn't consider them a threat. Now leave, and don't come back unless invited. They ran. 25 warriors fleeing with their tails between their legs, their alpha's pride shattered, their beliefs upended. When they were gone, Alara finally let herself breathe. The power that had sustained her through the confrontation ebbed, leaving her momentarily tired. Kyle was there instantly, his arm supporting her. That was impressive, he said, pride clear in his voice. That was necessary, she corrected. But she was smiling. Thora whooped, throwing her head back and laughing. Did you see their faces? Priceless. I thought Seraphine was going to faint, Magnus added, grinning broadly. The others joined in, the tension breaking as they celebrated their victory. But Alara's mind was already moving forward, already planning. This is just the beginning, she said quietly. Word will spread. Other packs will come, some to challenge, some to test, some to join us. Kyle nodded. Then we'll be ready. She looked around at the Unchained, these ancient warriors who'd waited centuries for her. Her found family, her true pack. Yes, she agreed. We will. That night, under the full moon, Alara and Kyle stood together on the mountain's peak. Below them, the den glowed with warmth and laughter. Above them, the stars wheeled in their endless dance. Do you ever regret it? Kyle asked quietly. Not accepting Demon back. Some part of you must still feel the broken bond. Alara considered the question honestly. I feel the scar, she admitted, but I don't regret anything. That bond would have destroyed us both. Me, because I would have always been less than I am. Him, because he would have always resented what fate forced upon him. She turned to face him. What we're building, it's stronger because we chose it. Kale cupped her face gently, his scarred hands warm against her skin. I've waited 500 years for you, matriarch. Not because prophecy demanded it, but because my soul knew you were coming. And I'd wait 500 more if that's what it took. She kissed him then, under the moon's silver light, and felt something new spark between them. Not a mate bond. They didn't need Destiny's magic when they had their own, but something equally powerful. Trust, love, partnership. When they finally pulled apart, Alara smiled. Ready to change the world with me, Commander. Always, he promised. And so, Alara Ashwood's journey from rejected Omega to prophesied Queen came full circle. She'd been cast out as garbage, left to die in the cold, her power suppressed, and her spirit nearly broken. But from that darkness, she'd emerged as something magnificent. Not because destiny demanded it, but because she chose to rise. She'd found family in the Unchained, found love with Coil, found herself in the transformation. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives are actually the universe clearing space for something better. Sometimes rejection is redirection. And sometimes the people who cast us out do us the greatest favor of all. They force us to discover who we truly are when stripped of everything we thought defined us. But if you think this story ends here, you'd be wrong. Because far to the north, beyond the mountains, beyond the territories of all known packs, something ancient stirs. The blood moon is coming again, and with it, a darkness that even the matriarch might not be ready to face. Ilara has claimed her power and her destiny, but the true test is yet to come. What did you think of Ilara's transformation? Have you ever experienced a rejection that turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and share it with fellow werewolf romance fans. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss the next chapter in Ilara's journey. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when that blood moon finally rises. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next chapter.